Hello, welcome to the third UBC Psychometric Research Series webinar of 2023. The topic today is going to be running R code in Jamovi, and I want to show you how to do some bubble plots, proportional sample size. It's really something that's not automatic in Jamovi that I've been able to find. So I'm going to show you a variation on that and a few other things. And it's using the same data from webinar 2, Andy Field's data on albums, music. So I'm going to show you some screenshots on how to run some R code because it can't do everything quite yet, but it's actually fairly powerful. And I'd like to show you demonstration of how to run some R code itself. So the first one is the screenshots, and then go through some R code itself, and I will actually make available the syntax so that you can run it actually. So I'll also make it available in MS Word or text file for you. All right, so let's start out on this. To be able to run it, you need this package here. I will show you how to actually load it in once I start doing the live. You install jamovi, and it's through the installation through one of the modules that we talked about earlier in webinar 1 today, this trilogy of webinars that we put together. So this is it here. It's called RJ Editor to run our code inside Jamovi. That's the one module that you need to install. It's very easy to do that way. Then to invoke it, you just simply go to this R command here, break down RJ Editor. You'll see my fancy looking red pointing arrow there. The data is already up. This is a little bit of data that I had earlier. This isn't the music data. This is something a little different that I put up, but you'll be able to see the live one in a few moments in my live demonstration. When you invoke it by going to this RJ editor, it comes up, and actually the one that I'm going to use, because I'm using RJ editor rather than just the one above it, this is the one with the plus rather than the one above it. The plus allows us to actually draw over the variables that we want to bring into it. And so once we bring over the variables, in this case, automatically there is a summary of the data that it comes up automatically, and so you'll actually see in there a summary of the data that'll pop up. I actually like to remind folks that you're going to want to see both, not just the output alone, both the code and the output. In it there, here is the actual, here's an example of how to do really a density plot with a, actually it's going to be a histogram with the density plot and the mean. And I'll show you how that's going to look in a moment. So you're going to want to make sure that you have it so that it's the code and the output. So not just the output, but the code and the output. We're going to use ggplot. We'll have to, in fact, invoke it, install ggplot at the beginning. I'll show you how to do that. It's the library command, library open bracket, ggplot2, and then off we go with it. And the variable, this is the data, actually is called data. So when you do it, that's awfully convenient, isn't it? So when you use this RJ plus, right, RJ editor plus, this data goes by the name of data. Kind of nice. Put the files over there. And so if you ever need to call the data file, it's actually just called data. In this example I have here, I'm going to take a look for the variable I call y. And then you'll see this is the same thing. It's a ggplot. This is the setting, the aesthetic. The variable that we're analyzing is y. We could do a histogram and also density plot, and we're going to do the mean of y as well. And how do we run it? Well, there's a couple of ways. The way that I like at the beginning so that as folks get to learn to do it, just highlight it and then run it with the green arrow and right. So you use you use some R code there, and look at that. It applies a histogram with a density plot, and the line is the mean there. You can, of course, treat it like any jamovi output. You can actually take it, highlight the image, copy it, export it in PDF, add notes, etc., just like you would any R output. So you're now programming, and with a certain amount of limitation, because it's not the whole R suite in there, but you can see that you can use some very powerful tools in doing this. So let me show you a demonstration from doing it with some actual data itself. Here is our data. This was the Andy Fields data, if you recall. And I'm actually going to also work from the R code. So I'm going to call the summary data was already at the top. Library, bring up ggplot2 because we're using this. And then we're going to hit histogram, add the density curve and the mean. And I put in green here for you the variable that we're using. So if we actually bring that up, we copy it ourselves and bring it over to the Jamovi. Let's do it with RJ Editor Plus. And I'm going to bring in adverts and sales. You can see because it's the default sort of program that's on there. So it's a nice way of checking your data to make sure you've got the correct data. We're able to do that. You can now go here and you can paste it in that way. Let's see if I can move it in a little bit and make it a bit larger for you. Adverts is the variable in this case. So I would start. There's a couple of ways you can do it, but let's just go start there. Let's highlight the part in green. We're going to make sure that we get the code and the output there. So we've got code and output. We're going to highlight it again to make sure we can run it, and off we go. It produces it for you, which is kind of nice. If you save it, then you actually have the code, which is wonderful because this actually disappears. It doesn't save it. It's not a perfect system yet. I have not figured out yet how to save this syntax in here. So I end up working from like a Word file or a text file, or a text file or notes file, file, or actually I save the output. So I can actually go here and I can actually export the whole output, or I can copy and paste it into a Word document or wherever I want to put it. And there's the first diagram, quite lovely looking. Shall we do it also for the sales? Do it for the sales. Right. Let's do it. Remember, anything with a hashtag in front of it there, or a little pound symbol, that line is not red. So it's a way of sort of, right? And then we highlight it. Let's highlight it there. Off we go. We run it, and look, we can now get the histogram, density curve, and the mean for sales as well. And we saw earlier for adverts in the first webinar there, and there's the commands for it. Kind of cool. It gives you this flexibility, this capacity to move between using the built-in functions in Jamovi and also doing a bit more with it. So there's some things that we're going to see in a moment that actually don't come very easily in Jamovi. They've not been built in yet. And this also begins to move you towards doing a little bit of, sort of growing your knowledge as you begin to maybe learn to write code, have how that understanding is, Sometime you can continue with this, or you can get much stronger, more flexibility by going to RStudio, etc. So this is really using it in a very powerful way here. So why don't we just get it to do a basic scatter plot, right? Let's just get it to do a basic scatter plot. There it is right at the bottom there, right? Sales is our sort of, well, it's a scatter plot, so there's no X and Y, but we can treat it as that. Amount of money in advertising and in sales. But what's interesting about this is it's hard to make much of a pattern. I mean, other than look at this, there's nothing down in this area here at all. So let's add a regression line to the scatter plot. And I'm going to leave the standard error equal to true rather than false. And that provides a linear, because I've asked for the, so it's the smoother there is LM, which is the least squares model, right? And so let's build a new scatter plot in that manner, and let's add a linear there, and I'm including the standard error there as well. Of course, you'll see, because what we don't know is where's this data, these dots, some of them are brighter, but we don't quite know where's the data concentrated. We could do the density plots, or we could do the box plots. That tells us a lot of information. But I'm going to show you another routine in a moment. Let's do the same thing we did before a moment ago, except now let's do the low S. You can see it's the same way, standard error. Now it's the low S curve rather than the linear model. And look at that. There's the low S in that area there. Very interesting. Very interesting. You're beginning to see that there's some, and again, I can go here, I can copy it, and I can export this image. I can save all of those there. And off we go. There's one last plot I want to show you, which is one that I haven't found in Jamovi yet, and there's a reason. I mean, it's a bubble plot, and what I really want to do is I want to do something similar to this, only make the points proportional to sample size. There's some contention as to whether this is really a good way to do it or not, or should one instead rely on the densities, the marginal densities, the marginal box plot. You know, I think there is some merit to add this as an additional. This one's built in from scratch. I can't find it in Jamovi, and lo and behold, if you go all the way down, there it is. And of course, it's two-dimensional because every point on Y and X. So every point has two parts to it. Take a look at that. This index isn't a particularly good one. This is not a great plot. One could get a better. One could change the color from red to, I don't know, we could go blue rather than red. Right, we can begin, there's a whole art to data visualization. And you can see it's also done in blue there. It really does, you know, we can begin to play. The number of options in ggplot are tremendous. It's an absolutely fantastic option. So I hope you've enjoyed this and you have found it informative, and I look forward to engaging with you more in the future. Thank you.